Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm parent coach, mother of four, and your host, Ann Kaplan. Welcome into another episode of the podcast, everybody. I'm sorry if I sound a little nasally today. It is because I have just gotten over the most terrible bout of the flu I've ever experienced. And oh my gosh, I've never gotten a flu shot before, but I am converted. I will be getting a flu shot next year, everybody. Holy mackerel. And also, I am a strong believer in Tamiflu at this point. I don't think I've been that sick, maybe ever. So anyway, today is one of the first days where I have a full work day. I actually am excited. I have never been more excited to just look at my calendar and sit at my desk and bing bong boom, bang through appointments and to-do list and stuff like that and just be able to do it. So I might sound a little under the weather, but I feel like a new woman. And what we're going to talk about on the episode today is something that in internal family systems is called polarization. It's just that idea that maybe you have like once on one hand, I feel this way, and on the other hand, I feel the exact opposite way. And what internal family systems would say about that is, yeah, you have two different parts that have oppositional views about what you should be doing. And that happens all of the time. So I'm going to give you an example from my own life. And then I think that's going to make this feel really clear. And I bet you have examples from your life that are going to pop up into your head as I go through this. So a lot of people know, just if you've been a long time podcast listener, you may have heard me talk about before on the podcast that I have a history of disordered eating. I used to struggle with compulsive dieting, probably from the ages of, I think I discovered dieting in my junior year of college, and I battled with it in all different kinds of ways until I was, I don't know, yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. Until maybe a few years ago when I really felt like I was able to transcend that. Doesn't mean I have the world's most perfect relationship with food in my body, but I'm not in that trapped in that cycle before. Anyone who's struggled with things like this before knows what cycle I'm talking about. The cycle where I would be really rigid with myself. I loved being on a diet. It basically told me so clearly I'm an Anemia type 1. I love right and wrong and being a good person. A diet is basically like being given like the Bible. It tells you exactly what to do to be a good person. Just follow these rules. You'll be good. You won't be overweight or unhealthy. You won't feel yucky or sluggish or whatever. You will be like this paragon of health or whatever. And so I had no problem sticking to a diet. I was like rigid person, once again, Anemia type 1, to be able to be effective and all of that stuff. I would be like super locked in with my diet. And then after a while, I would really start to feel super confined and restricted and unhappy and on the outskirts of the happiness and full partaking of life that was going on around me. And it's not like I would quote unquote fall off the wagon in the typical sense. Like I wouldn't just spur of the moment be like, screw it, and start eating a whole box of Oreos or something like that. I would consciously decide this is the wrong thing. I shouldn't say consciously because I definitely was not conscious, but I would intentionally, always let's use that word instead. I would intentionally decide being on a diet is wrong. I've been being on a diet this whole time. I thought it was right, but I was wrong. What's actually the best thing to do is to not be on a diet. And then I would go out and eat a whole bag of Oreos. Not from this place of I give up, but more like I decide. Maybe that's a semantic point, but that's how it was for me anyway. And then after a while I would feel like really terrible because I was first of all eating terribly, and I also felt like I was just like a little bit out of control and all of that stuff. So I was just really all or nothing with what I was doing. I was either like locked into a diet or I was like bonker balls hedonistic when it came to food. And I remember like at one point talking to my therapist and basically saying, I feel like there's no way for me to be happy because I'm either on a diet and then I feel deprived and isolated, or I'm not on a diet and then I feel disgusting and out of control and blah, blah, blah. Whatever I choose, it's terrible. And I want you to really listen to this, remember this little snippet where I'm saying I felt like I only had two choices. It's either the terrible thing or that terrible thing. And that's what I was struggling with, like this impossible choice. I either have to do this horrible thing that makes me feel awful or this other horrible thing that makes me feel awful. And I can't figure out either, which one is right or any other way of being. It didn't even seem like there were any other options. And now, fast forward, whatever, 10 years later, I'm doing all this IFS work with my clients and exploring all of this more heightened consciousness. And I've done a ton of my own personal work. I can look at that scenario, and through the IFS lens, we would say I had a polarization going on inside of me. I had one part of me that said, you need to be really rigid. You need to follow a diet. Like you need to do this. And that's the path to happiness and fitness and wellness and all that stuff. And then I had this other part that was like, you need to be free. You need to do whatever you want. You need to do the things that feel good to you. That's the path to freedom and happiness and wellness and completeness. And neither of those parts were completely right. But more importantly, neither of those parts were self. They were just parts. They are just parts. I shouldn't speak about them in the past tense because I still have both of those parts of me. And that's something that we find over and over again whenever we are doing internal family systems work. We find that almost every one of our parts, somewhere in our system, there's like an equal and opposing part. And we almost like need, or we think we need, our ego believes that we need both of those parts because they keep this like sort of delicate balance of our system in place. They keeps our system in this like tense balance, like that tension, that oppositional force that keeps things from going way too far in one direction or the other. Imagine if I only had the dieting part, I would probably just continue to going in that direction in this like extreme way. Or if I only had the you should do whatever you want and do what feels good part, I might go too far in the direction of that. I'm going to circle back around to that in a minute because that's actually not true, but that's what our system believes, right? The solution to one part that's like taking over and getting us going in the wrong direction is to create another part that takes over and gets us going in the other direction. That's what our sort of childish, egoic minds come up with as the solution to this situation. And we see this all the time. So I had a session just this morning with a client who's trying to make a decision about whether to stay in a relationship or not. And he was giving me this example of how much resentment he feels in his relationship. And he basically said, I pulled chicken out of the freezer to make dinner. And my partner was like, oh, what are you doing with that chicken? And in my mind, I'm like, what do you freaking think I'm doing with this chicken? I'm making dinner. What kind of stupid question is that? Like, why would you even ask me that? He's just got so much pent up resentment or whatever that there's this one part of him that's just, you're an idiot. Don't even ask me questions. You're so stupid. And then he has this other part that's, dude, cut the guy some slack. He just asked you about what you're doing with your chicken. Maybe he wants to know what you're making or what's for dinner tonight or whatever. So he's got these two parts, one of them that wants to crucify his partner and the other that's basically scolding him for feeling that way. And you can see how those two parts keep him in this tense balance of not losing his mind and acting like a crazy person, but the tension is still there. Or I did a session with a mom a couple of months ago where she really discovered that she had this one part of her that like would get super irritated with her kids for fighting. And she realized the reason why was because she has this side of her that's, we need to stay on track. We can't be fighting. It's bath time. We can't be fighting. It's time for bed. We can't be fighting. I'm making dinner right now. Like I need to stay on track and not get pushed off track. And that's why this fighting needs to stop. And also I can't leave the room while you're fighting because now I'm off track. So she had this one part that's everything's going to be a mess if we don't stay on track. And then she realized she had this other part that's, it's not that messy. Calm down. and we were talking about her polarity, she basically said, if I only listen to the part that says I have to stay on track, I'd be so tightly wound and I would like never sleep because I would just always be trying to get out in front of my to-do list and never fall behind. So I need this other part that says it's actually fine, but I can't fully listen to that part all the way because then I just fall into inertia and never do anything because everything is fine. This is so normal. And you can see that all I'm describing this like sort of tug of war that's happening internally for people all the time. I don't know if you can feel it as you're listening to me talk, but I feel this just feeling, oh my God, stop the madness. Can't we all just get along? Do we have to be fighting and then one part wins sometimes and one part wins some other times? That's what was happening for me and my vicious cycle of dieting was like part of the time, the part that thinks I should be on a diet would win the tug of war and I would be on the diet. And other times that go for it, be free part would win. And that's when I would be just like going nuts up. But really, once again, I'm never being self led in that scenario. Or this client who's either scolding himself for losing his temper at his partner or losing his temper at his partner, he's still neither of those scenarios is his self leading the situation. It's his parts taking over. Who wins the fight? That part gets to hijack the system and be in control. So, what's the point of all of this? First of all, if we are in a coaching relationship, what do? We work with both of those parts. We call up both of those parts. So, in the scenario with this mom who was losing her temper with her kids fighting and feeling like she couldn't just take some space and let them solve it themselves, we did an IFS session where both of those parts were present at the same time and they both got to be listened to and they both got to take their turn to explain their position and be heard by self and ultimately get to this place where we take all of these perspectives under advisement. It is important to stay on track. And it is important to make sure we don't fall behind. And it is scary if we just just go totally out of control and get stuck in this inertia place. And it's also true that things aren't that bad if you take 5 minutes and take some space and take a pause while your kids are fighting. That doesn't mean that everything's going to fall apart. We can put things into perspective. Both of those things are true. Self can listen to both of those things and make a determination in any given situation about whether taking a pause is an okay idea right now or how they want to respond to the situation. That's what it looks like to be self-led. So when we have a polarization like that, as a practitioner, it's my job to hold space and invite and help you invite both sides of that argument to the table in a way where both sides get to take a turn, both get to be heard, both get what they need from you, and both can, because they've gotten what they need, simmer down and let the grown up in the room, which is self, assess the situation, take all of these things under consideration, and decide how to respond. What does this mean in terms of you, listener at home, noticing when you are in this like this or that black and white thinking? Here's where I want to circle back around to that place that I was in when I told my therapist, I have to choose between these two terrible options. Feel terrible because I'm on a diet or feel terrible because I'm not on a diet. Whenever we are in a place where we see the world in that black and white thing, like I only have two options and both of them are terrible, that is a really big sign that we have lost some access to that self energy. And instead, we are getting blended up and hijacked by these parts. Because the truth is that in any given moment, there are infinite opportunities, infinite potential choices that we can make, infinite new ways to navigate a situation, infinite new responses that we could come up with. That's true always. When we don't see that, when we only see this or that, it's a really great sign that we're caught in this tug of war between two opposing parts, two polarized parts. And it's a great moment to just acknowledge that, take a step back, maybe do some of your own internal parts work, or maybe just do something that's about calming your system down, taking a step away, not forcing yourself to make a decision right now where it feels like you're just trying to pick the least worst option. All of those things. I find these polarities happen so frequently and normally. Another example from my own life, and then I'm going to wrap it up for today. And you've heard me in previous episodes talk about anger and how we deal with anger. And especially as an Ania type 1, I have a very complicated and rich relationship with anger. And one of my strong polarities that has developed inside of me over the course of my life stems from my discomfort with anger. I have a lot of rules about how anger is not okay. And so, what would happen to me anytime a situation would make me angry is I would immediately feel like I was being confronted with two bad choices. One was lose my temper and then be bad, quote unquote, because I was being angry at somebody and venting at somebody. And over my life, I had multiple experiences of what happens when you rage at somebody and doesn't work out well. You lose friends, people think less of you, you create drama in your social world, like et cetera, et cetera. So that's a bad option. Allowing yourself to be angry at somebody, not allowed, not good. And the other choice that I would come up with was just fester, keep the anger to myself and carry it around. And even though I wanted to just not be angry anymore, I couldn't figure out how to do that because the only way I knew how to not be angry anymore was to release that anger by exploding at somebody or about something. So I felt like I always would have these two choices, either blow up, and that also could mean blowing up my life, or just carry rage around inside me forever. Either or, two terrible choices, and they both stink, and I could never find any traction. And it really was through doing a lot of this IFS work and a lot of my other personal growth work that I have like finally recently, which seems like late to the game, but I know in the grand scheme of things, there are many people who never figure this out, and I'm right on time and all that stuff. But once again, that polarity starts, the sort of like the intensity just drops, the simmering down happens of those parts. And all of a sudden you start to realize, oh, there's a lot of different ways I could deal with my anger that are not just two terrible options. There's lots of different things that I can do, and I can navigate a disagreement or even a fight, quote unquote, with a friend or something in a much more conscious, evolved, and maybe aware way that's actually beautiful and brings both of us closer together, et cetera, et cetera. But I couldn't see that while those two polarities were coming up. And you know what? That still is in me. Like this morning, my husband was working out on the floor next to our bed, which I've asked him not to do, but he did it anyway for whatever reason. And I could feel it come up inside me again. I was really irritated. And it's like almost like I was blinded. Like I went from this expansive mindset to being like, I have two choices. I can relitigate this with him and just be pissed and, nag him about it and just be this angry person that I don't want to be, or just carry around my frustration and not talk about it. And I have really spent like this morning being like, there's only two choices. Those are the only two choices I have. God damn it. And, but at the same time that I was having that, I also had this like back of my mind awareness of, oh, this is that black and white polarity that I was talking about with anger. It's happening. Those parts are coming up. And just knowing that and just acknowledging them and saying, I see you. I see you, parts. I can see what's happening here. And I know that right now I can't see them because maybe my eyes have been closed, but there are a myriad of other ways to engage with this situation. And I will be able to see them eventually. I just need to do my stuff and be patient and take care of my parts and all that stuff. And as they simmer down, my vision will expand, the fog will lift, and I will see way more than that, just these two different roads I can go down. So maybe leaving you with just this one nugget is notice when you are in that black and white thinking. It's either this or that, and both of them stink, because that is that telltale sign that we have gotten caught between two parts, and we're just standing between these two little parts of our ego that are duking it out, and we're getting caught in the crosshairs. And then you can decide what you want to do with that awareness. But it all starts with awareness. So just notice for yourself, when are you feeling like you only have two choices and you don't like either of them, and you're forced into this situation of either or? I hope that's helpful for you. I'm excited to hear what comes of some of these little snippets that you absorb from the podcast. And if it is landing with you and you are feeling called to pursue some of this work, it might be time for you to reach out and set up a consultation with me. This moment of finding out what is waiting for you on the other side of doing some of this work, and what your goals are, and how the kind of work that I do can help you to get from here to there. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long, or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.